I want a sandwich. Now. Oh, sandwich wench. Yo, wench. Sandwich. Now. I'm going to need a sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. Sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. Sandwich. A sandwich. A sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. Sandwich. I'm going to need a sandwich. Sandwich. A sandwich. Oh, sandwich wench. I want a sandwich. Sandwich.
Hello everyone, welcome to another political recap stream here on the Moistski Live channel. Joining me to discuss some politics and cat stuff, yeah, we're doing that today, is TrupsLP. Say hello, TrupsLP.
Hello, TrupsLP.
How is TrupsLP?
I'm doing all right. I'm sitting pretty in my house in my chair after one of my longer weeks, so I'm happy.
Yeah, well, that's good news. Would you like to perhaps explain this cat thing you were telling me just before we went live?
Yeah, right. So my cat, Guinness, he was the first one that we had, right? And he came from a house that was full of kids and dogs and whatnot. But we picked up another cat because we thought that he needed a friend because he would, come and yell at us every night, right? So he was bored. He wanted something to do. So we got him a cat, and he's not a fan. He's not a fan of the new cat, which we've appropriately named Stella.
You like your drinks?
And she's Stella Artois.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a
By the way,
sweetheart.
just a thing.
It's kind of stupid.
Stella Artois has a reputation in this country for being wife beater. So that's interesting. It's called foreshadowing with what you're about to tell us.
Yeah. He does not like her in the house. And I think it's because he went from a house that had a whole bunch of people in it and already established animals and all that. So now he has the house all to himself. He's like, okay, cool, this is mine now.
Yeah.
And then we brought in a cat, and he's like, well, no, this is mine now.
Yeah.
Who's this? And he will get into fights with her. She will win.
Yeah, so the boy, generally boys don't do as well against girls anyway. Cat Kingdom is very much female-led. And it will take time for them to get on with each other. Cats are very... And I say this because we have 4 cats in this house. And one cat, Tilly, doesn't like any of the others at all. Bob plays with the other one called Speckles. Right, Speckles is a coward. Voodoo is the more recent addition, and he's finally free. He's had all his jabs. He's no longer stuck in the bathroom, and I forced this. I forced it. And I was like, right, he's coming out now because I need to find out if my plan worked. If my plan and my belief that if I simply put the dog that keeps on attacking the cats in front of him, she won't go for him. And I was right, because the moment she did, he went straight up to her and clarted her. I was like, bosh, victory has finally been attained. Now, yes, he does she does still try when his back is turned, because she's a stupid dog, but she'll never do it face on with him, because he has clarted that cat. But the issue really is, not just that, but he's also trying to get on with the other cats, and he thinks it's playtime with them. So he'll run upstairs here to my room, and he'll see Tilly, he'll jump up and she'll hiss at him. So he'll run downstairs and see Bob, who also will hiss at him. So he runs back upstairs and tries to play. Speckles is the only one that
He's trying his best.
Yeah, he is. Speckles doesn't hiss at him at all, but she's an outdoor cat, so she doesn't really come in much. But I think she'd be all right with him. Bob plays with other cats, so I'm hoping the hissing will stop, to be honest, because Bob doesn't fight cats. He could, and he could beat him, to be honest. But Voodoo just wants to play. It's hilarious. He comes up to me, and I'll tickle his belly, and he'll just start biting my hand. He wants to play. You know, but cats don't get on with it. If they don't, you have to let them work it out for themselves. Annoyingly,
right? And with Guinness, like we have let them okay, so he has to follow her to every room, right?
Yeah.
Because he's inspecting his territory, right?
Of course.
The invader is here, and for the most part, he lets her, just exist, and he just stalks and
tolerates
in the corner. He just looks at her and glares at from the fucking corner, and then eventually, when she's walking away, he'll pounce on her, and she'll turn around, she'll meow at him, and only when it gets to a certain point will she go, "No, quit it," and whack him.
Yeah. That by the way, any the dog here that does that attacks when the back is turned, it's a dick move, and it will invariably end one way.
Yeah.
In this instance, it always Voodoo doesn't pull his claws out either. He just went, no lie, this was so funny. When he hit her, he was just playing. He just wanted to play with her. He tries to chase Lizzie, my cavalier, around the house, and she doesn't even realize he's doing it. And then she realizes and runs away from him. Not because she's scared, because she doesn't know what he's trying to do to her. And then with Sizzles, the black cavalier who attacks cats or chases them because she's an idiot. When she did, and Voodoo smacked her, she went to my sister and sat there and it would not. When I called Sizzles, she looked at the cat and wouldn't walk past the cat. She was terrified. I've got video and photo of it. I'm gonna have to send it to you because honestly, it was so funny because the dog would not go past that cat. I was like, bosh, victory is mine. It just takes time, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I know, and cats are. They're also extremely just temperamental with how they want things to work. Yeah,
they're just that.
Yeah, so I'm not too worried about it. I was hoping that everything would just suddenly work, but I knew that was too good to be true.
Yeah.
So we'll work it out.
Yeah, I'm glad things have improved a bit at least because that's no, not improved. I'm glad things are
moving,
yeah, because you don't want it obviously to be too much of a hassle.
No, I also don't want to keep her locked up forever. That's not fair.
Yeah, no, that's another thing. A great issue I took with. Here's a picture for you. Here's a picture of Voodoo and Sizzles on the work server for you. Literally.
Oh, I see the grudge happening. I see the tension.
He looked at her and she would not move. My sister sat there laughing her ass off, and I was stood by the door just going, "I told you."
But the cat looks very interested.
He hasn't seen dogs much. Also, he's been annoying them. He was in the out room. The door had a gap underneath it. He would annoy the dogs by sticking his paw out, and they'd look at it thinking,
"Oh, I see."
Yeah, so he was taunting them the whole time. He's a troll.
I see.
Good troll. I like him.
Yes, very much so. All right. Anyway.
Sorry, I have to be going. You carry on.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to hang up on our cats for too very long.
Only 10 minutes.
Yeah, only 10 minutes. Only. So what's been going on in the UK? Because obviously there's some odd, interesting things happening in America that I'm sure that.
I've heard about it. Yes. Okay, so. We have apparently found out why Boris actually pulled out of the leadership campaign this time. And that's because he was advised by others who actually do back him that not to do it this time, but to bide his time. Because if he did it now, the Conservatives would lose. Which makes sense, because it's not an ideal position for him to be in. He shouldn't be in any high office right now. He needs to rebuild his reputation, perhaps. He needs to. He just needs to let other. Again, it's that long play. If he wants to be prime minister, if he wants to be prime minister again, like his favorite Winston Churchill, be a two run president, prime minister, 2-term thing. 2 times as prime minister. That's fine. Do it. But you've got to bide your time here. There are enough controversies without adding fuel to that fire. And there's plenty of it this week because Labour, they haven't really focused too much on the economic side of things. They focused on Suella Braverman, who is the current Home Secretary. She is somebody that she, under Liz Truss's prime ministerial lolness ship. She was the Home Secretary then. She resigned because she sent an email from her personal account with sensitive information that's government related. You shouldn't do that through a personal account. What's more interesting really is she sent it to her own computer, not a secure computer, so she could send it from her personal account then, which is even more dubious. She did, though, when found out, instantly resign. We all agreed, right move. Well done. First time in high office and you resign immediately. Well done. Your career can't be considered dead, though, at that point. Everyone deserves a second chance. I firmly believe it. So when Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister, he made her Home Secretary again. And people have been latching onto this and saying, you want to build a kind, compassionate government. That's Rishi's interpretation. Compassionate government, conservatism, I believe. Kind, compassionate conservatism. It would sound
idealism, but okay.
It's a way of polishing something that's not quite nice. And
sure.
The opposition have latched onto Suella being there because she's untrustworthy. And that's not entirely true, because she did resign the moment she made the mistake. She wasn't fired, she resigned. They keep saying she was fired. No, she wasn't. The only thing that Liz Truss did during her time in office were two things. One, she fired Kwasi Kwarteng, or asked for his resignation. The second was that she gave some really bad vocal, thingamajiggy at the Queen's funeral. Her voice does not carry, it sounds forced like a female villain in a movie, where they try and sound really imposing and it sounds really bad, because they lack the cadence in their voice to be able to do it.
You're right.
That's what Liz Truss sounds like, along with speaking slow. I'm sorry, slow. We're not stupid. You are, for speaking so stupid. And thinking you need to speak slow because you think everyone's stupid. It's not condescending at this point, it's just stupidity. So there's a lot of crap going on with that. And it's taking attention away from something else, and that is that, we are about to hit a potential 2-year recession. That is the longest in our country ever. So our economy is completely fecked right now. And Jeremy Hunt has one of the worst possible jobs right now, because he's got to fill what is considered a rather nasty black hole of £50 billion. To do this, he is going to have to hit so many people with this. But it's believed it's going to start with a capital gains tax raid, but then lower earners are going to more than likely see their tax bar go down from where mine sits at 12.5 grand before I pay tax, probably back down to 10. Just because that hole needs plugging. And it's a big hole. Again, we came out of recession, and not recession, austerity, but actually we hadn't dealt with the debt, because the Conservatives were still borrowing phenomenal amounts of money anyway. You love voicing female villains, Chaos. Well, I hope you do a better job, even though I have heard you in a VC and you do fumble a fair bit. Because your brain is clearly too energetic. But yeah, so there are these issues right now that no one's getting to talk about or discuss. Because, yes, okay, the Chancellor will be bringing out a autumn statement, a budget in a few weeks' time. And that's fine, that's normal, they always do. But we know it's going to have to involve capital gains tax. It's going to have to involve hitting the lower earners again. He can't hit too many of the higher earners, because if he does, they'll leave the country. So it depends on how he hits them. He can't do a windfall.
Where will they go?
They will go to any country that has a tax haven status that they can abuse.
To be honest, to America, it's not better.
I would argue they'll probably go to Ireland, because Ireland is where Google operate and how I get paid by YouTube. Just a thing. Or they'll go to Jersey, Guernsey, tax havens. They're crown dependents, the United Kingdom. So they're very close to France, but they're loyal to us because the French are shit.
Would you want to be loyal to France?
No.
No,
but also we protected them during the wars. That's why they're crown dependencies. Dependents, sorry. He won't do a capital. He won't do a capital. Not capital gains. He won't do a what's that tax they were talking? Windfall tax. He won't do that because that's a short-term result. It doesn't fix the long term because bear in mind here, they may get billions from all of that. Oh, we made 7.5 billion in profits. What are we going to do with this? Okay, we're going to take half of that. Okay, what are you going to do with 3 billion? Really? What can you actually do in this country with that? You need a long-term solution where you can get 3 billion on a regular. If they know that you're going to take 3 billion from them, the first thing the energy companies are going to do is up their fees to account for that. Which means if they're getting a windfall tax as 50% of their profits, they're going to double the bill entirely. They're going to do it on principle because they want their profits. You've got to play this game carefully. And Jeremy Hunt arguably has the worst possible job right now. And it's not an easy. I don't know how he's going to fix that because it's 50 billion as a black hole. We're about to hit a 2-year recession. People are going to lose jobs. It's normal, and it's going to put an even bigger strain on the benefit system. Because what do? It's not about. And by the way, it's not just about creating new jobs in this instance because there's still jobs available. It's about making sure those jobs are still going. And they're blaming it on Brexit as a thing as well. I'm not convinced that's the issue, but I do know that
Haven't they wanted to blame everything on Brexit? Everything that's gone wrong, hasn't it all been Brexit's fault?
Obviously. But there's another...
in Ukraine, isn't that just Brexit?
Obviously. Another issue, though, is when we were doing Brexit, somebody had said to us, you want a trade deal? Let's do this thing. And the moment that person left office, some guy who likes to think he's Irish when he's really not, keeps on snubbing a deal with us and claims it not a priority. But he's too busy shutting down all the coal mines before the midterms and saying you're going to go wind and solar only.
Yeah. Well, listen, he's not literally... He doesn't have a brain. Okay.
Oh, I'm well aware of that. We'll get to that soon. We'll get to it soon.
I can't fix him.
It's fine. We'll get to that in a minute. So there's one other thing with Conservatives. There is something else I'd like to talk about at some point in the stream, but there's one other little thing I'd like to discuss before you have your TED Talk. And that is that, is that a member of the Conservatives has been suspended from the party because they decided to accept an offer for £350,000 to appear on a show called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Basically where a bunch of famous people go to the outback or during lockdown somewhere in Wales, which is completely the same. And they do really disgusting tasks to earn food and activities. And if they can become popular enough with the people who watch the show, they might not be voted off. This guy,
like Big Brother,
basically yes, but even more shit. The guy, the politician in question, is a politician. I mean, he's going to get voted off first anyway, and he's been paid £350,000. You could buy a decent house for that money. Hell, if I had 350 grand, I'd retire and no one would see me ever again. Why? Because I've got 350 grand. I could last 35 years on that. I'm not an expensive hoe. I might buy a nice guitar. And a nice bottle of whiskey. But the point is, well, yes, that's why my coffee link's in the chat there. I just thought I'd mention it. Give me your money, know, faux shizzle. But Matt Hancock is the man in question. Do you remember the name at all?
Isn't that the guy who got caught on camera?
Yes. He fucked his marriage by fucking his secretary.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that's it.
I remember things.
Yeah, I remember too. I
didn't remember because his name was Hancock.
It's a very memorable name. He lost his marriage. Yes. He has kids, by the way, with that ex-wife, and they don't want anything to do with him. I'm
sure they go to school every day. They're like, "Hey, didn't your dad fuck his secretary?" I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, it depends on which school they go to. If it's conservative, chances are he goes to a decent enough school that their status completely eroded that. And so he's going on this show for this money. I thought it was because he's got to pay some child support or something. But the problem really is he's now been suspended by his own party, meaning he is essentially sat as an independent, going to earn a large sum of money. I'll agree, but he's never going to be on the front bench ever again. He's he's in a safe seat. His political seat is safe, but only as a conservative. So he needs to be voted out quickly, get back to working for his constituencies, get back the whip for the Conservatives, Because if he doesn't, he'll be out of a job in 2 years at most anyway. So surely he would want to keep his, MP spot and not lose the whip, because he'll guarantee lose it because the Conservatives will pick someone else. It's a Conservative safe seat. They will win easily. You can be independent. They're not going to vote for Matt Hancock, independent. They're going to vote for Conservative.
Yep.
Chatter said don't speak your mouthful, just what I'd say.
No. You can't tell me what to do.
He likes his hookah. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I figured it was. Yeah. I could hear it in the background. Yeah. Nice.
You can't tell me what to do. I have authority problems.
Just have Trups problems. Okay, well, we're done for my first TED Talk of the evening.
Oh, yeah. You want to bring up fucking Biden and his dumbass comments. Okay.
Oh, which ones? Because there's a lot of them.
The one that you already referenced.
What about the Iraq one?
We'll get there. Oh, God, now I remember what you're talking about.
Oh, yes.
Motherfucker. We'll start with the one that you had already mentioned, which was Biden went to California and he announced that he would shut down all of the coal. Well, sorry, he said he wanted to go wind and solar. It's going to be a wind generation, he says.
Yeah. And
then proceeds to explain how he plans to, and I quote, shut down coal plants all across the country.
Yep.
Now, I want to point out that this man is allegedly, and I say allegedly because sometimes I don't think he knows what it means to be from Pennsylvania, but allegedly he's from Pennsylvania. The Pittsburgh Steelers is the NFL team for Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which would kind of help imply the general blue-collar and manual work labor type of culture that area has.
Yeah.
None of this seems to matter, however, because he apparently would rather fuck himself over in his own polls by... I don't even care if it's true or not, right? That he wants to do this. Like, if he's just lying and saying things, which has happened, totally. But stop saying it before midterms. I'm sure his entire party is like, God damn it, why can't you shut up?
It's fascinating you mention this, and just before you continue, because I was watching a North Korea documentary earlier, and they were talking about... it was mostly centering around the events that led up to and including the meeting between Trump and Kim Jong-un. And they mentioned that because of the way Trump is, half the time when he had spoke publicly, he was ad-libbing. And that terrified everyone because didn't know what he was going to say. And it's just something it reminded me. It's that weird thing of if you go off script, you really are just, we don't know what, you're so unpredictable, and yet Trump had a reputation for being that. Biden is exactly that.
Yes, quite right. Exactly that, yes.
I just find it
Biden, I feel, is more of a concern, honestly, for his PR folks, because they have to anticipate his fuckery. Like, they have to anticipate the man being broken.
Yeah.
Before he goes out on stage. Like, there's just no other way. And so I think that's where a lot of the you've seen the individual the videos of all the different folks basically having to usher out the press, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've seen all those clips. I mean, it's pretty much the same idea where they have to anticipate in advance this man is going to go off script if somebody asks him the wrong question. So we need to keep him from doing that desperately. And
There's a lot of minders.
I mean, right now, he said that, but that's not the only gaffe he had this week.
His gaffes remind me a lot of Bush, but Bush's gaffes were more like physical comedy gaffes. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
In that sense of, but the only major difference is I don't see anyone laughing at Biden's gaffes because they're all ones where his aren't physical comedy. Well, some of his reactions are, but a lot of it for him is genuinely what he is saying. No one's laughing,
Well,
and I want to laugh.
Kind of sad.
Exactly, and it's that it's so strange because I want to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to laugh.
It's not wrong necessarily to want to laugh, because what he says, like if it weren't so immediately pressing, it would be funny. If not completely sad. But you're well, okay. Yeah, you're not wrong to laugh at the senile old man. There is something funny about it, if not in a dark humor kind of a way.
I mean, it's always funny to watch because obviously people, when Trump was in office, they were always talking about how he might be compromised mentally, his ability to understand. And this is another point actually made in that documentary, was that Trump didn't know too much about the real depth of the issues with South Korea and North Korea. So when he was constantly showering Kim Jong-un with platitudes, people thought that he was just sucking up to him, not realizing he was working Un. He was working him. And that was the point, because he's a businessman. He knows how to work somebody. But no one seemed to get that. Well, mainstream certainly didn't seem to get that. They always thought it was suck up but then it was because of that, people felt that he was also compromised mentally, because he was too unpredictable. But yet he achieved more than most.
Oh yeah. But okay, so in that same thing, by the way, I believe it was the same place where he was giving that first speech about the coal mines.
Mm-hmm.
He had said something else stupid, where he says, "I'm already being told that if they win back the House and the Senate, they're going to impeach me. I don't know what the hell they're going to impeach me for."
Not being mentally competent. Or how about Hunter Biden?
There you go.
Hang on. That's the thing.
Okay.
Because wasn't there something that came out recently that said that Twitter had openly and knowingly suppressed anything related to that laptop?
Yes. Not to mention the fact that DHS was literally reported to have directly influenced Facebook and Twitter to quote-unquote curtail dis and misinformation and at the government's behest, which is actually corporatism, by the way. It's not capitalism, as some would say. Oh, it's capitalism. It's governments working with companies. No, that's corporatism. And actually, it happens a lot in communism too, where the government and these businesses work in tandem, under the guise of basically expanding the prevention of terrorists and stuff like that. That was where you lost all of your rights, which for Americans that shouldn't feel so strange. We've been there before. That's what DHS was created after 9/11.
There's a question in chat I need to ask. Mm-hmm. Who is worse off mentally, John Fetterman or Joe Biden?
Mentally, in the sense of like actual cognition, or like
question
function.
The question is not specific.
I know. I see that. But I'm adding that stipulation because if you want to talk about like functional, being able to execute certain things, I would say Fetterman is worse off.
Who's Fetterman?
Because the one who had the stroke.
Oh God, no! I remember. Sorry, because he's so memorable, I forgot about him.
Yeah. That's fair.
Follow-up thing then. He does have some cognitive issues, but he knows what he is doing. Does that not make him more dangerous?
Not necessarily. If he had the ability to actually like use and abuse the power given to him by disability, I might say yes.
Okay, that makes that. I just thought I'd ask it to get it out there.
Yeah, but no, I would say that Joe Biden is worse off in like actual cognition and cognitive decline because he legitimately has no fucking idea what's going on around him. Fetterman at least is he's aware. He just can't do the thing. Like, he physically is unable to execute the brain.
F.
Oh, sick. Thank you. I've been gifted candy.
Victory is yours.
So I would say Fetterman is worse off, like, in function, but Biden is worse off all around.
Okay, so back to Biden. He's obviously got plans to shut down coal, which would be hilarious to try and do before midterms, or even to suggest it before midterms and then push for it during the remainder of his first term. Also laughing at the idea that he couldn't be impeached if they win back the House and the Senate, which most presidents lose the House in the first term anyway.
Right. So, like, my statement on, like, what would they impeach him for?
Yeah.
So there's this funny little thing, and back in the day, they actually impeached Trump over similar things. Back in the day, it was being investigated by an attorney in Ukraine about Burisma and this odd little member of their energy board, Hunter Biden. Thought that was kind of interesting, but apparently they were still doing business deals with the Ukrainians at the time, and the federal prosecutor was told outright, and Biden has admitted this, in fact gloated about it. He basically said that you either fire that prosecutor or we're not giving you the money that we were supposed to give you. And they said, okay, and then he was fired. Amazing. And they, when Trump had, called up and been like, hey, can you investigate that? That seems kind of sus. That seems kind of, quid pro quo, maybe. They impeached him over that exact thing, the quid pro quo of, can you investigate this thing that our previous administration did?
No,
they impeached him over that. So the bar isn't very high.
We've always agreed those impeachments were absolute bullshit.
Totally.
And I would agree that it is still bullshit if the Republicans did it to Biden, but I'm still here for it because it's something entertaining.
I think they would have at least more objective truth to it. Like, Trump calling up Ukraine saying, investigate what happened with this prosecutor, versus Biden coming out and saying, fire this federal prosecutor who's investigating the board of a company that my son is literally a board member on.
Yeah.
You're not getting federal funding.
Yeah.
Is much stronger corruption, in my opinion.
So, agreed. There is something also we need to add with the second impeachment. Firstly, it was strictly done without any Republican involvement. They were barely allowed to speak, like in the first one. It was always strictly more Democrats over Republicans. They voted all the same way. It is the most boring, asinine dribble I've ever seen, because it was all done for show, and it was solely done to show we're in power. What we say goes, and you can't, by the way, champion yourself as a great democracy if you can't even work together on some issues. So,
well, don't you know our democracy is under threat, Meg?
You're not allowed to say fight. You're quite right. Unless you're Democrat, in which case we will fight them on the beaches. We will fight them in the care home. We will fight them in the solar farms.
The solar farms. It sounds like a Mad Max dystopian future. It sounds like a Call of Duty map.
Fam, those are the maps I would drop napalm in.
I mean, it would certainly be bright.
It'd be very, very nice and clean as well.
Yes. Purge.
Nothing reeks of cleanliness more than a nice, healthy dose of anthrax.
Or, styrofoam gasoline.
I mean, if that's available in COD, then I'd definitely use it.
That's what napalm is.
Perfect. Then yes.
Anyways, so Biden has been on that, but he had a speech given the other day, where he was.
Is this the Iraq one?
No.
Oh God.
But that one's good too.
Okay, do the next one. Go on.
Yeah, the one that he talked about recently was him talking about how the vote on Tuesday, because our midterm elections are next Tuesday.
I'll see
How
you next
they're
Tuesday. See you next Tuesday. Interesting.
Yeah. Yes, something like that.
Have you voted?
No, I go on the day of because I'm an actual American.
Okay, because I know some people mentioned they're doing their paperwork and they're having an absolute ball ache sorting it out.
No, I go there myself because that's just what I do.
America.
Also, sometimes the candidates like to show up at the polling places, and sometimes they like to go around and shake hands with people.
That's nice.
Which I actually like because sometimes I get to ask them questions. You know, the local reps and whatnot.
Right.
Not like the state reps or anything like that. But like if there's like a mayoral candidate, sometimes they'll come around. But anyway, our democracy is under threat, Meg, according to the Democrats. They are horrified and afraid that if the Republicans get into power, that our democracy itself will not function the way
January 6th will happen again. Sorry, I thought
yes,
I didn't say.
Unironically, they are actually campaigning on that.
Well, they have to campaign on something.
They do. It's either that or cutting off penises.
Ew.
Yes. No. Unironically, they are actually pushing the January 6th thing as actually still a threat to our democracy, that our system of government is legitimately under threat, because when the Republicans get into power, they have already stated as much. They're going to employ rules and policies that will shore up voting rights and you know, keep people who aren't citizens from voting and other such terrible.
You mean all those
things.
people that will vote Democrat for sure? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just blasphemy.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy. Unfortunately, I don't know if the Democrats really understand how absolutely batshit they sound sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But they legitimately kind of sound like they're trying so desperately to tear apart the very fabric of this country by saying things like, "Oh, the people who, if you don't vote for us, you literally won't have a country anymore." I understand these are political like tactics that are used by like both parties, but one of them sounds a lot more was it malicious, evil.
Yeah, there's definitely
when it comes from the people who are actually actively trying to subvert the actual people and how they interact and feel with each other.
Yeah,
like the difference between complaining that, hey, the system is broken, we should fix it, and if you let the other party into power, you will not have a system anymore, is like the worst kind of fear mongering.
It's always fear mongering, isn't it?
Well, it's the same like opinion, the same feeling, the same sentiment that he expressed when he had his Nazi speech in front of the White House with the red lights.
Oh god, that was hilarious though.
It was hilarious, but in the worst kind of way.
Yeah, of course.
Because you watch it and you go, could we not?
The optics of this is not good for the Fourth Reich.
Chancellor Sattler.
Chancellor. Who's his Goebbels? Just curious. Who's his Goering? Who's his Scher?
I believe it's possible that they have not yet revealed themselves.
Oh, it's Illuminati based. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is what the shadow government that they have talked about for so many years, has always been, right? It's always been these hiding in plain view type folks and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. We will certainly see what will come about. But I have very little faith in the in the Democratic campaign working very well, because I have absolute faith in the working class and the actual people who do things in this country to observe and hear the stories that they're trying to tell on late night news and think to themselves, well, that doesn't sound like real fucking life. So I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
And as Mystic points out in chat, yes, projection is a very real thing. I genuinely think that is 100% what is going on there. There's just no other way to put it except for they're intentionally trying to lie to you.
Okay.
That's it. That's what my thoughts are on that.
Okay. Well, there's a third thing that Biden has said.
Oh, yes.
The Iraq one.
Okay. Was this about his son?
Yes. First of all, it was talking about going to war or stopping a war in Iraq. He meant Ukraine, and then talking about Iraq, and it made him think of, go on, you've got this.
Yeah. I'm so upset that this has happened, though.
Why?
So, I mean, at first glance, you've accidentally called Ukraine Iraq. You have accidentally kind of acknowledged that the U.S. is directly involved. And you've also said that the reason why you fucked up and meshed these two together was because that was where your son died. But your son died 6 years after he came back from Iraq from brain cancer.
Yeah.
So I would say that I think the president needs to take a nap.
Come here, Tilly.
I think he needs to go to bed.
Yeah.
Someone needs to get a hold of him.
I will admit. So hang on. What son did he lose in Iraq?
Bo Biden.
Okay.
Yeah, like Beau.
During the discussion, what was the discussion on that made him say it? Was it about Ukraine anyway?
Yeah, it was his excuse as to why he accidentally said Ukraine and not Iraq. Sorry, Iraq, not Ukraine, because he was thinking of he was thinking of Iraq because that was, quote, where his son died.
Do you think when his team, speechwriters and everyone else heard him say that, do you think they all collectively crapped themselves?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure that they were like immediately on the phone with Jean Pierre, the media personality.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were on the phone immediately saying, help, how do we fix this?
Yeah.
What can we do? Is there any way that you can swing this in the news without making it sound like our guy just said exactly what he just said?
Honestly, what he said was hilarious, though. Tragic, but hilarious. Hello, Tilly.
I mean, it's absolutely, like, sad as all hell.
Yeah.
But what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, that is not... How do you forget where your son died? That it is so dark and so sad that the man actually forgot.
Not just that, I want to latch onto the lack of, like, Ukraine sounds nothing like Iraq. So how did Iraq even? How do you have a random moment where your son pops into your head? I mean, I get it. Grief can really consume people, certainly when they are older and they hyper focus on things they lose. Because there's somebody. Okay, Mohammed Al Fayed. His son Dodi was engaged to Princess Diana. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, they're not here anymore, and he spends most of his time as an older man. He quit everything he loved. Harrods, I think he owned the shopping centre. He owned a football club as well. He just stopped because he'd lost everything he loved. I get that. But this guy is a president. He's busy all the time. He can't just walk away. He won't anyway, because I don't think he'd know how to. Hello, Tilly. He wouldn't know what he's doing. But I can understand it. It's just, even with the context of who he is, I can't see how it happened.
I mean, you're not wrong to question it, because genuinely, I don't think anybody understands where this shit came from. Like, it's possible, because I know that some older folks, as they start sunsetting and start doing things, sometimes just memories appear.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to give him the full credit about the situation, it's very possible that it was a moment like that where just something in his brain thought about his son, and that was just what was on his mind as he was talking. It's possible that that's literally just it.
Yeah.
And like, I could perhaps give him some break for that.
Couple things. Firstly, Chaos, you're probably right about the aphasia. Bookworm Addict, I hope your recovery is swift and comfortable. And 3, Leona, Tilly's getting loads of fuss, but for some reason is arching her back, forcing my hand to almost break on the back of my desk. And she's feeling
because they love you.
It's because she's also a bit skinny, though. I need her to fatten up a little bit, because she's a bit thin at the moment. Yeah. That better? No, move my arm for you. There you go. Sorry, carry on. My apologies.
No, I mean, I think genuinely, if I'm going to give him all the credit that I can give him, it's that his mind is simply in other places.
Yeah. Is he still alive? Just quickly.
Oh, no.
No, Biden.
I mean, depends on who you ask.
Okay.
I'm sure somebody could come up with a way to say no.
I am convinced.
But in terms of his day-to-day walking and existing, basically no.
Shuffling, yeah. He's coasting, but he's coasting one of the most powerful positions.
Did you see that video where Kamala Harris had to prevent him from what appeared to be leaping off the fucking stage?
Yeah, I honestly, if anyone hasn't seen this, I thought for a second he thought he might be a stunt double or something.
Yeah, I was actually concerned that he might fucking do it.
I wouldn't know what in that instance. I don't like watching people fall, because I get weird sort of shivers and tingles all over my body when I see people fall over. In that instance, I feel like I would feel. I honestly, I'd feel bad for him if he did that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, I genuinely thought he was going to, and apparently so did Kamala, because she was holding on to him for dear fucking life, dude.
She's not the brightest, but I'll give her credit in that instance, because.
Oh yeah, she was aware at the very least.
Yes, aware that if the man falls, his hips are never being repaired, his legs will never be repaired, everything is broken.
Now, here's the one thing that she didn't think of. If he were to have done that, she could have become president.
I mean, he had a colonoscopy. She was still president when he had a colonoscopy.
Yeah, true. But missed opportunities.
I swear it wasn't that at all. I think they basically put the plug in his arse to charge the lithium batteries that are keeping him alive.
I think you need more than... I think you'll need one of those, a hydroelectric batteries that the people who are going to become disappeared have in the back of their cars.
Maybe he's more cold fusion at this point.
Nuclear reactor. Or he's just,
He'll need the heat for it.
Lizard man.
See if he drinks enough water. If he drinks too much water, we know it's nuclear.
True.
Right, so I have a topic.
Okay.
Rishi Sunak during PMQs keeps on talking about how Keir Starmer voted for and supported Jeremy Corbyn becoming PM. And I'll be honest, it's a bit of a tired thing to talk about. I don't care anymore, because who does? Jeremy Corbyn he's not even a Labour MP anymore. He's an independent. He lost the whip because of the anti-Semitism, which he is adamant was blown out of proportions. Jeremy Corbyn has responded to all these comments of what he has described wholly inaccurate representation by also saying that he now essentially lives rent-free in Rishi Sunak's head. I actually have to admit, I'm not a big fan of Corbyn, but I like the fact while he's not a Labour MP, he's clapping back. Because at this point, I doubt he'll ever be a Labour MP again. I'm not even sure he'll be able to retain his seat because he's progressive but Labour, you know. But basically, Corbyn, what he did on Thursday, he raised the point of order in Parliament by discussing the inaccurate representation of the 2019 election manifesto. To which he then the full quote was, "If I'm going to live rent-free in his head, at least he could accurately reflect what I think and what I say rather than inventions made up by him or his office." Oh, I have to admit, at least Corbyn's got a few brain cells rubbing together to be able to clap back like that. I found that quite interesting, but there is more. You see, Corbyn has been dubbed a useful idiot, because he has... he's decided to annoy Ukrainian officials because he has agreed to talk at an event named Real Path to Peace in Ukraine, which is it's organised by a far-left group which is, pro-Moscow and blames the invasion of Ukraine on NATO. Now, there is a point there. Of course there is. NATO has spread and Russia feels threatened. But the fact that Russia feel the only way they can resolve any issues is by threatening violence or to instigate violence isn't necessarily the fault of NATO or NATO existing. It shows that Putin just wants his 14th century borders back, you know? Although that could be an incorrect interpretation of it. It is basically what it is when some dementia-riddled, Parkinson's-riddled, cancer-riddled man decides he wants to take over parts of the world again before he dies. Yes, Putin is ill. Everyone knows it.
Now, question though.
Yeah.
So this is an issue that even the people in the U.S. are contending with, and there's been some good arguments against it.
Mm-hmm.
The constant funding of the war.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Okay. Do you agree with stopping funding to the war?
I think we give them their chance and see what they do with it. We cannot keep on bailing out, especially when we are about to enter a recession anyway. Where are we going to get the money from? China? What? They're going to borrow money off them with guilt again, are we?
Yes.
But I think that it's a dangerous area to tread. I'm not as interested in that. I'm more interested in Corbyn being willing to go and speak at these events.
The reason I bring it up is because the Republicans have made several comments, even in approaching the midterms, that they want to stop funding, and that was part of a Democrat campaign pitch. Was that the Republicans are siding with Russia in that they want to stop funding Ukraine, which I thought was kind of interesting hearing that coming from the left, which has typically been very anti-war. If we think back to Vietnam, think back to Iraq, Afghanistan, it was usually the left who said, no, these wars aren't about us, and we should not get involved. But now that it involves Russia and Ukraine, now they're war hawks.
Yeah, it's very strange because whenever I think about Democrats over here, I normally think of warmongers. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what I think. No offense to those who are Democrat, but I'm afraid that's what it's just a stereotype at this point over here.
Be the change you want to see.
Yeah, right.
You don't want to be called that. Make sure that you're an advocate against it.
Just that, you can't say you're against it when you're involved in so much of it. I'm not as interested. Again, I'm not as interested in that discussion. Do forgive me for not having thought about it.
That's fine. I thought I would bring it up just as a.
It's a fair point. It is a fair point. I'm just intrigued by this event and Corbyn being involved in it, because what is the real path to peace in Ukraine? You can't say discussion, because to do that you'd have to have NATO pull out of many nations who signed up to it because of Russia. They want to be protected, and they want to know they're protected. And that's a fair thing to have and to be a part of, whether you agree with it or not. They feel threatened by Russia, and Russia proved that they are threatening, even though they're not very good at the whole war thing. They're really not good at the war thing. I mean, sorry, they never were. They were just willing to lose more people, which they have always been willing to lose lemmings. Always. Collateral to them, or acceptable losses, is more than 10%. It's stupidly high.
Right.
They're not.
Well, the discussion thing has been brought up several times, especially when you look at like how Elon Musk had also mentioned those things.
The Starlink and all that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was the oops from the Ukrainian official to accidentally step on toes. Right?
Yeah, that was a bit stupid.
What was it? Don't bite the hand that feeds. Right?
Yes, please don't.
And especially when you like genuinely need him, probably not best to spit in his face. That being said, though, from I've heard the tales and the rumors about how Ukrainian officials and actually some NATO had actually requested where Elon Musk to prevent Russia from accessing Starlink and any Russia affiliated like individuals from accessing Starlink. Yeah. And I don't know if he was down to play that. And also I can't necessarily speak of the validity of that because I don't remember if the nature of which I read. However, I would not be surprised with things like that.
Yeah. In the chat, Sabi asked, do you think the Russians will stop invading when Putin dies, or do you think they'll keep going? So there's many... He's humiliated, to be honest, Putin is. Because his commanders are abandoning posts, they're demoralized, they're not making the inroads they thought they'd make. They're not welcomed as much as they thought they'd be either. There are many people who are saying Putin is on the way out anyway, health-wise and politically. Whether that's true or not, you can consider it propaganda at this point. There's nothing to confirm it. If he was replaced, it would be somebody within his own party, like Medvedev or something, who was formerly a president anyway. He supports this. You'd need someone who is moderate to effect that genuine change. They'd have to be pushed back enough that they then decide, okay, this is too expensive, we have to now stop. Because don't forget here, all those sanctions on Russia, what did they really achieve?
Boosted the ruble, turned the ruble into a gold-backed currency.
Bosh.
Fucked up the oil industry for the rest of the entire world.
Yes, and everyone's paying the price for that. 2-year recession high. Energy prices through the roof, the usual. Putin, annoyingly, has to go for any discernible peace to be achieved. And if Ukraine want to be a part of something else, and Russia think that the argument Putin seems to have is he thinks they're going to invade Russia. No one gives a fuck about Russia beyond getting resources from them. Beyond that, no one cares enough. No one's going to invade him, but he is so deluded he thinks they will. I promise you this, no one here wants that. Why? Because it would inevitably lead to a nuclear war. No one wants it. But yeah, it's just that's what it is. And so, how do you achieve real peace? What is the real path to peace in Ukraine? Honestly, I know what Corbyn's going to say because Corbyn is a pacifist. Corbyn is 100% a pacifist. The problem he has is his idea would undoubtedly involve Ukraine putting down all their guns first. And then he'd say, now we can have a discussion while the Russians are still pointing guns at Ukrainians. That's the problem. His solution would be solely that, and it's
who genuinely has the leverage in this situation? If we were going to position this or proposition this as a actual negotiation, right? Who has the most to lose? Who needs to be the ones to come to the table?
Ukraine has most to lose, to be honest. They lose their coastal line because Russia hold it. Mm-hmm. They lose a fair chunk of their eastern part of their country, and they lose even more because they lost Crimea years ago.
Yeah.
They'll lose even more. They won't have any access to the ocean.
So unless Putin dies, there is no reason for Russia to come to the table. They have what Ukraine wants.
There is that, but there is still the belief that that he will have to pull back because the losses are getting too much and it's getting too expensive. While he still believes he can be president for another 10, 20 years, no one believes that because we've seen all the videos of his health. The man has to cling onto someone's shoulder just to stand up. His feet are constantly twitching. His hands are always shaking. And it's not because of the cold. The man knows how to exist in that cold. But it's interesting to watch. I'm just more interested in Corbyn's willingness to branch out to preach pacifism, but he knows his version of pacifism will never, which is absolute, will never achieve any peace. He believed he could do it with the Middle East as well. Like, fam, this isn't something you can just sit and talk about. This is ideological crap that needs to be erased from their lives for them to even be able to talk.
True.
And that can't be erased because it's so fundamentally important to them.
I genuinely don't think that without and what I presume is actually already going on is there's probably already different meetings and things being talked about on how to help assist Putin's inevitable death.
Yeah.
I'm sure that our countries are thinking about that. Because Garrett did mention that in the chat, and I don't think he's wrong.
Honestly, it's not far off, to be honest. And I do think he's next a KGB agent, so good luck. He'd know that if his mind's working, he knows the tricks.
He knows the trick.
Just don't take the glowing tea,
Yeah, totally. But, I don't necessarily think that it's going to be as clean as anybody wants it to be. Now, if there was any kind of negotiation that Russia would accept, I think they may be wise to at least ask about it.
So I do have a small update.
Okay.
Xi Jinping has warned Vladimir Putin not to use nuclear arms in Ukraine. That's that's an ally of his telling him, no, don't do this. Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, has asked Xi to use his influence on Putin to stop the war. Putin is also demanding evacuation of civilians from Kherson, Kherson.
Kherson, yeah.
Kherson. I assume because a war is going there, the counter-offensive from Ukraine is going there. That's interesting. Yeah, there are 400. Oh, hang on, you got. Oh no, that's Kyiv. That's something else. There are a fair few are without power still, because obviously the airstrikes have done a bit of a number on them. Okay, well, I'm bored of this now.
I don't know necessarily how it's going to play out. I'm sure there are plenty of meetings that are happening every day in both of our countries to figure out what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
So because we're involved, obviously, there's no point in saying that we're not, but we are.
Yeah. Okay. So before we end, I have a query for you. Last time we did this with an election coming up, we made predictions and we were wrong. Your midterms are on Tuesday, yes?
Yes.
Will we have the results by our next stream?
No. Well, maybe. They have reported that some elections might be called by then, but they can't expect all of the votes to be tallied on election day. The question is, when are we next here? Are we here next? Are we here on Friday next week, or are you away? I should be here next week. So by Friday next week, we won't have the answers. We might have some. We will have some. That's good. Next week will be a midterm related stream then. Is there anything you'd like to promote before we finish? No, I'm all good. Thank you, though. Good, because I don't either. I'm going to go and
finish off my Maker's Mark and go to bed. Yeah. Thanks for joining, folks.
Wise decision.
And we'll see you all next Friday. Say good night, Trups.
Good night, Trups.
Good night.